Alright, so if you're in here and you can hear me before I get started, just say something in the chat. Let me know if you can hear the microphone, and then we'll get going. Let me know if you can hear me, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, thank you for that. Alright, so as you all know, well, hopefully most of you know what's been going on recently with GameStop and Wall Street bets and everything. So like super short version, basically hedge funds on Wall Street were shorting a stock for a company, GameStop. What that means is that they were basically borrowing these stocks from brokers and selling them at a high price, hoping that the price of the company stock would go down, and then they could buy it back to pay it back at a lower price. Or if the company goes bankrupt, it goes to zero, they potentially don't owe anything, and they also don't owe any taxes. So super nefarious thing that was going on there. Anyway, it was identified by a bunch of Redditors on a subreddit called Wall Street Bets, and they did what's called a squeeze, where they all bought the stock, which made the price go up. Therefore, these hedge funds started losing money, and so that forced many of them to buy back, which of course more buying equals higher price, which kind of makes everyone else have to buy back, and the cycle repeats. So it's been ongoing. A lot more has been going on than what I just explained. But I say all that to say, if you like coding, programming, and you're interested in creating like bots that can trade stocks, or anything like that, or you just want to monitor the situation without going to a website like this, there's all these APIs you can use to get data about things like candlestick charts, but you have to sign up for them. Some of them are free, some of them aren't, and the ones that are free may not have real-time data, or if they do, I don't know, there's all these different variables. So one thing that you can do if you just want to get the current price of the stock right now is you can go and use web scraping to take it from a website like Yahoo Finance. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how to use Axios, and that's an NPM package, and another one called Cheerio to do some web scraping. So you could apply what you're about to learn to any situation. In this case, I just thought it would be fun to track the price of these different stocks. So it is in after hours right now, so this value right here is going to change from minute to minute. But we can also look at like Bitcoin or something that's 24/7. Bitcoin is not a stock, it's a cryptocurrency for those of you that don't know, and it's traded 24/7 globally, so that value is always going to fluctuate no matter what time of the day or night, whereas stocks that are traded in the United States, they are only traded during certain hours. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into our code here. I've got the solution over here for reference in case I forget anything, which I'm sure I will. But let's get started. So this is just a new JavaScript file. I'll be able to run it from down here in the terminal. We're using VS Code. Just gonna jump over into the stream real quick. If everyone's still able to hear me and see everything, someone just type something and let me know that we're good before I jump into it. And to answer Laney's question, did you stop the series on making money from home? No. So I got kind of distracted. I'm trying to sell my house right now and buy another house, which is just like an insanely stressful situation. And yeah, so I started listing stuff and I was selling things, and we made some money in the last video. I think we were at like $420, which is basically where we ended up at. 420. Anyway, I got distracted. I had other stuff I had to do. I had to edit that interview that I did with Ron Lichty. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. It's on Agile Workflows. Really great information there about Agile. But will I continue it? Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that series, and I just want to be able to put more time into it. The very last video, you can tell I was burned out. I made it in like 10 seconds. So I was just like, oh, here's how much money we were making. I want to be able to actually like put some time into it So is it over? No, but am I going to continue it like tomorrow? Probably not. I need to get some other stuff done. So yeah, I am doing this only with JavaScript. Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, so let's jump into it since everyone can see what we're doing. It's telling me that the bit rate is lower than the recommended bit rate. So let me just make sure that my settings are correct. Just give me like 1 second before we get started. I don't want it to like crap out in the middle of the little tutorial. So if you're able to hang in there for a second, appreciate it. All right, hopefully that fixes things. I just changed it. Anyway, there's a little slight lag, but we should get the video back here in a second, and let's get started. All right, so the first thing we need is Axios. So we're just going to do a require of Axios, duplicate that. The next one we need is called Cheerio. And then once we have those, we basically need to do all this inside of an async function because we're going to be using async await. So we'll go ahead and use what's called an immediately invoked or immediately invoking function expression, an IFI. And so what you do there is you just take an async anonymous function. We can use an arrow function here, and wrap it in parentheses, and then you immediately invoke it. So everything you put inside here, it is inside of an async function, but it gets invoked immediately. We might give it a named function in a minute and then invoke it a different way, but we'll just do this for now. All right, so the next thing we want to do is send a request. So we're going to wrap it all in a try catch first. This is just like how we're going to handle any potential error messages. And so we'll go ahead and just log that error message. Try not to use semicolons anymore. They're kind of annoying and you don't really have to use them in most cases. Okay, so try, the first thing we want to do is get the data from, so we'll say let, and we'll extract the data. And when I say extract, I mean destructure. So there's this object that gets returned from the request that we're about to make with Axios. It's going to have a property called data. We're going to destructure it with let curly brackets data is equal to await. And I think it's just like an axios.get. Double check that. Yeah, it's an axios.get. Cool. All right, so you decide what website that you want to get, that you want to get the HTML from, right? So if you send a GET request, an HTTP GET request to this URL, that's the same as you entering it in the browser. Thing is, if you do it from Axios instead of the browser, what the browser does is it gets back that string of HTML and then it parses it or whatever it does, and it turns it into what we're looking at, right? And it has access to all these different CDNs and assets, images, CSS style sheets, JavaScript files, etc. Whereas with the HTTP request from Axios, we're just getting back the HTML for the page. But we can identify the different elements on the page using the selectors, and we can extract text. And in this case, what we want to do is extract the text for either this one. This one's not going to change because the market's closed, or this one, which will continue to change until after hours is done. It says 4:43. You'll see in my corner it's 3:43. So this is based on Eastern Standard Time, which is New York City, where they have the stock exchange. Okay, so let's go back over here, and basically we're going to plug in that whole URL right there. I use backticks. You can use single quotes or double quotes, it doesn't matter. If you wanted it to be dynamic, let's kind of zoom out a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. If you wanted it to be dynamic, where like you wrote a function and then the function takes the name of the stock ticker, the symbol for the stock, which is in this case GME, then, and you did it dynamically, right, to where you could use any stock. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. So we'll come back to it. First, we're going to hard code it right here. We're just getting the quote for GME, and that's going to bring back this page right here. And then we want to identify, let's go ahead and use our web inspector. We want to identify the span right here that is holding that. So it's got this class, which is fine. It's kind of a weird looking class. So this thing right here, the data react ID, is actually probably going to be easier to use. So it's got a data react ID of 55. So we're going to use that. Okay. So we're getting this data, and then we're going to say, I think it's like let $ is equal to Cheerio dot load or something like that. Let's check the syntax here. Cool. We're on track. So Cheerio is what does it gives you the ability to do the web scraping. So basically Cheerio is going to create kind of like this rendition of the page that it allows you to like parse through using jQuery type syntax. It's kind of cool. So if we pass in the HTML string that we get back from Axios to Cheerio and we assign that to the $, then we should be able to do something like $, and then just like if we were using jQuery, we can pass in like span, right, because it was a span, and then data react ID is equal to, and then 55, and that we're going to want because it's a $, it's going to give us like an array or an array type object or whatever. So we're going to do first, we want the first element in there, and then we want the text of that element. So if this is correct, then it should give us the text from this guy right here. Alrighty, so what we want to do with that, I mean, for the sake of simplicity, we'll just assign it to a variable called price, and then we'll just log it. So console log the price. Alright, so if everything's working, this should work. So first, I just need to install Axios npm I, which is short for install Axios and Cheerio. Just put a space between the names, and it'll install both of them simultaneously. So we'll go ahead and get those installed. Good. It's saying that something about package.json, but I'm not worried about that. So if we do an ls, we've got a package lock. Oh, I never did an npm init. That's why it's complaining. So if we want to make it a node project, we can just do an npm init -y. It skips all the questions, and now we have a package.json file. So when you install packages, it doesn't give you that little complaint about there not being a package.json file. None of that really is relevant to what we're doing now. So we're going to run node. The file's called fun.js, and it's saying that require something something is not a function. Line 17. Doesn't like that. Interesting. Okay, so line 17, it's at the end. Something is going on here. So we have Axios and Cheerio, and then async function. We get the data, and then it's my little cheat sheet over here. We load the data, and then, oh yeah, hold on, I think, throw the air. Let's go ahead and return this. All right, let's try it a different way. Get rid of that for a second. All right, so instead of logging it like that, we're gonna make this an async function, and we're gonna call it get price. Doesn't need to be an arrow function. Get rid of that iffy stuff. So we have this async function called get price, and we were returning the text, and so then we can say let price is equal to, oh, this is where it's gonna get tricky. Let's just try get price. It doesn't take an argument. All right, so that one didn't do anything, which is a good thing. No more error, right? So now if it's returning something but we're not seeing anything, let's go ahead and log whatever it's returning, and then cross our fingers and see. All right, so it's saying promise pending. So this is returning a promise. So that's interesting. If that returns a promise, what happens if we await it? Like this. Well, that's fine. We can just return price. No semicolons. Still pending. So we have data is equal to axios.get. And let's just go ahead and do some debugging here. So we're gonna first see. All right, see this crazy string? That's all the HTML from that page, right? That's what we got back. So we're getting back the data, and then we're doing the let $sign is equal to blah blah. So let's log the $sign. Okay, so that part is working, and the part that seems to be giving us trouble is this right here. So let's console log. Go ahead and get rid of that. We don't need to console log it here if we're doing it up there. And if it tells us that it's okay, did it. There's the price right there, 90.69. Let's just go check that. 90.59, it changed. That's the live price, so it's constantly changing. But now we've got this other thing, right? Oh, okay, sorry. I'm still logging the $sign. So let's get rid of the $sign. We're so close. We're so close, I can feel it. And run node fun. Boom, there's the price. Okay, so then you can get fancy if you want to, and you can say, you know, the current price of, in this case we know it's GME is, and we'll just put a comma there. You can put, if you didn't know this, inside of a console log you can give it multiple arguments, and it'll just put a space between the output. So it says the current price of GME is 90.88. Now, what if we want this to give us a live update of the price, right? So then we do something like a set interval, and then inside of there we pass in get price as the function that's going to get, that it's going to invoke, and let's just do it every half second. Okay, so 500 milliseconds is half of a second. 1 second is 1,000 milliseconds. So it should start streaming it. All right, so 90.89, it's not changing very fast in half a second. So let's go ahead and change it to 1.5 seconds. All right, there it is. 90.98, 90.98. I mean, it's still taking a second. There we go. 91 cents, 90.97. All right, so basically what we've created here is a web scraper. Web scraping is where you pull the HTML from a website and then you parse through it and you extract or you scrape the information that you want from it. So we've just created a, instead of accessing an API, we're just going straight to the source, which is in this case Yahoo Finance, and we're pulling live data off of that page, and we're just pinging it every, in this case, 1.5 seconds, 1,500 milliseconds. So if you go and you put these side by side and you just look, 90.85, we've got a 90.85, 91, we've got a 91, 91.02 in there. Yeah, pretty awesome. So you can do it for any stock. So let's make it, our program a little more dynamic. So in this case, we've hard coded GME. Well, what if we go in here and we just put symbol. Now I can use this syntax here. This is template literal syntax where I can inject variables because I've got it wrapped. The string is wrapped in a backtick as opposed to like a single quote or a double quote. So we use that $sign bracket and then variable name and then close the bracket, and we do it again here because it appears twice. And then one more time here. So we'll say symbol, and note that these are single, so they need to be changed to backticks. And now get price, where are we getting the symbol from? Well, let's put it here. Get price takes an argument called symbol, and then the get price here, because it's being passed in as the first argument, we can't invoke it right away. It won't work that way. So we have two options. The first one is, I know for sure will work, where we're just going to put an anonymous function here, and then inside that function, this is where you do get price with whatever you want. So in this case, we'll do AMC movie theaters as opposed to GME, because it's also one of the big ones that people are talking about. And let's run it again. And you'll notice that when it's running, it changes dynamically. So now it's saying AMC, and it's giving you AMC is down $8.64, 65 cents. And it's just going to keep updating that live. Of course, if you want to check and make sure that that is accurate, you just go over here, boom, 865 and after hours. That is correct. So you can change it to anything you want. Now, the other way would just, I think, be to put like a global variable for symbol. In that case, you don't even have to put it here, and these should pull from that global variable. Not my favorite thing to do. I think giving the function the ability to take in an argument makes a lot more sense. So we'll just go ahead and stick with this. So this is 16 lines of code. You could even do a couple little things here and there to make it shorter. So really simple, right, to be able to do what we're doing here, but powerful, right? You could use this as part of a larger program, in which case I'm actually doing that. I'm using it in a larger program. And so what I do, instead of doing the set interval stuff here, is in the larger program, you're going to want to pull this function, right? So we have this async function get price. So what you can do is you can just do a module.exports is equal to get price, and then you can do a const require, or const and then get price is equal to require / or whatever the path is to this folder and file, and whatever the name is, in this case fun.js, and then you can extract it into a different file. So I'm not going to go into that because that's part of like a larger program, but just showing you that you can export it as a module, right? It's a function, and you can bring it into a different part, a larger program, and now you've got this thing that can pull live price data from any stock that you want. And like we talked about earlier, I think we can do it with something like Bitcoin too. So we'll do Bitcoin against USD and try that real quick. And so that's not working. Let's go over here and see. Okay, so it looks like it's actually BTC-USD. Okay, so let's try it again. Let's do BTC-USD. It doesn't like that either. Interesting. All right, so the question is there a typo? And I don't see one. Oh, there's no aftermarket, right? Because Bitcoin is 24/7, so we have to make an adjustment here. So mind you, what we did here, this is specifically for aftermarket. So if you wanted one for aftermarket, you'd have to make sure that you indicate that. So this React ID is 33. Super simple, right? We just go find this right here and change 55 to 33. Run it. There it is. So it says plus 3612. That is not the correct thing. I'm pulling from the wrong thing. So let's inspect this again. Interesting. So this, somewhere on here, it's getting plus 3612. It's right here on the Dow 30. So if you look at that, that's also React ID 33. So this is where it gets tricky, right? So the question is, maybe it's not the first one, right? Maybe it's the second one, which I don't even know if we can do it this way, but we're gonna try. So you gotta make changes. Okay, it doesn't like that. Based on however the HTML setup. One version of the page, it may not be set up the same as another one. So in this case, it is the same as the other one. It uses a React ID, but they use the same React ID for two different elements. And the data React ID is just a data attribute, right? It's just a custom attribute that they're using. Apparently they're using it with React, excuse me. And so in this case, hopefully this class right here doesn't change. We're going to copy this whole thing. It's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different classes. It's the craziest looking class I've ever seen. I don't know if it's going to work. We're going to paste it in here. The way to get this to work is to put a period before each one of these. Don't forget your opening quote. I've just never seen class names like this. So if it works, great. Again, this will probably give us an array. So we're going to call first on it. Go ahead and close this thing now and get it out of the way. All right. Fingers crossed. Let's see if it works. Doesn't like something. So it says error is not defined. So that's my first little problem. I'm catching the error here, and then I'm throwing ERR, so they need to match. So if we're going to throw an error, we got to throw it correctly. And okay, so now it's telling us, if we close it and we go up and look at the error, unmatched selector, and then it gives you this FWB. Okay, so here's what's going on. There's a period in here, right, between the 3S, and I don't know, maybe we can escape it, and maybe it'll know that it's not a class. I don't think that's gonna work. It's not. I do have another trick up my sleeve, and so we're going to do this number, and we're gonna take this guy and comment it out. Okay, so we're not gonna get the text from it. We're just gonna log this. Now it may give us object or something that is not human readable, in which case we're gonna have to go a step further. Okay, interesting. So it's actually giving us like more data than we expected. So let's just go up here. The first one is 0. Let's go ahead and close this out. It says there's a length of 2. There's 0 and 1. The first one, does it give you the text or anything like that? No. So this is like logging this whatever it is type of node. It's a node, but not like Node.js or anything like that. It's like a DOM node. And so it's the second one is the one we want. So we have to figure out how to get that with jQuery. So get second element jQuery and array jQuery. Let's see. So that's interesting. It might be .eq. Let's find out. Yeah, it looks like it's this .eq. Let's see if that works. So console log, let's do a .eq1, right? 0 is the first one, 1 is the second one. And then the text on it. And then start this. Oh, there it is. Got it. All right, so we can bring this back over. This is the one, we'll just put the 55 back in here. This is the one that was for after hours. You can put a comment in there. 54 would have been, I think, for regular market hours, and then this right here is for crypto. So all these different variations, you just put comments so that you know in the future, like this is how this works, that's how that works. So in this case, we're just going to punch in this, and say the current price of the symbol is, and then we just need to make sure to put a $sign. And if you wanted, you could, at the end of it, you could put like USD if you're worried about the currency. And so, oh, it gives me the space. That's annoying. That's okay. Let's think about this. Let's do a $sign and then a plus right there. We could use template literal too, it doesn't matter. There we go. The current price of Bitcoin is 37,204.79. 37,204.79. So at this point, it's pulling. If we go back and look, that's interesting. Refresh it. So there's that 204.79. So then refresh it again. So 0421. Yeah. All right, so that's it. So these values aren't changing every 1.5 seconds or whatever. So if you want, you can go down here and change it to like every 5 seconds, which is 5,000 milliseconds. And even then, it's probably not going to change that fast. You could do 10, 20 seconds, whatever. And then, so it's 37,204.21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's interesting. That one like didn't get any text, but then the next one did. So it's almost like it was in the middle of updating when it sent the request, and then it didn't get any value for it. Anyway, that's how you can do it with Bitcoin, which is a cryptocurrency. It's different from stocks. And then the other way that we have on there is for stocks. So I'll throw all this into a, into a gist, and I'll put it in the description of this video. That's really all I got for you right now. Just a quick review. We're using Axios to send an HTTP request to the Yahoo Finance, or Yahoo Finance, if you will, API. And we're passing in a symbol dynamically. A symbol is a stock symbol for the name of the company, for the underlying equity. And then we're using Cheerio to take all that HTML that comes back from Axios, and we're using that to like parse through it and get the text that we want. At which point we just log that text in an interval, so we're constantly getting it to update. And that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you like this, please like. If you're not subscribed, obviously, please subscribe. That would be very helpful. And if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments. Thanks a lot, and we'll catch you next time.